Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Ann Feeney. I'm the Executive Assistant for AESA. It's a pleasure to welcome you all here to Teams 101. Brought to you by our business partner, Microsoft. They've been very busy helping us here at AESA with trainings and resources for our members during this unprecedented COVID-19 period. I'm especially excited about today's training that has been provided for all of our members, but particularly targeted toward administrative support professionals such as myself. Today's presenter is Dr. Geri Gillespy. She's the program manager of the Microsoft Education Engagement Team. We're excited to have her here. We're going to record this webinar, and a recording will be shared with all of you after the event. You can share it with other people in your organization that may be interested. And if you have any questions, and I think Geri's going to elaborate on this, there is a chat application on your screen that you can use to submit those. And before we get started, I just want to remind all administrative support professionals out there, we've just started a new affinity group for administrative support professionals, and I urge you all to join. If you need it, there's more information on our website, and or you can reach out to me. We'd like to get this affinity group going, and I think it's going to be a great thing for all of us. So now let's get on to the good stuff. Geri, take it away.
Awesome. Hello. Well, let's get started here. You should be able to see my screen, and I'm going to first start with something I like to call setting the stage. I am here, however, I'm going to turn my camera off, video camera on, to save some bandwidth for myself as I present here, but I am here. And right now, as we get started, you should start hearing some music. If you don't hear some music, what you're going to need to do is check your controls here. And if right now, looking at this, can't hear, is also check those on the bar. You could go in front of depending on what's that.
Hey Geri, you got kind of quiet.
All right. Yes, my name is Dr. Geri Gillespy, and we are going to cover today Teams 101 for administrative support professionals, but really for anyone who needs to organize a team, organize files, share files, and use Teams in that administrative organizational role. I am a program manager with Education Engagement Team. Keyword there is engagement. However, new to this side of the desk because I've been in education for over 22 years. So this is the first time since I believe 1998 that I have not worked for a school district. So I understand the business side of education also and that support side. Today we are going to go over this team structure and navigation of teams. We're going to look at the different types of teams, how to manage and add members, looking at channels and tabs and what that means. Look at menu applications, and then we're going to talk about settings, best practices. I'm going to give you something I call Dr. Geri tips, and then I also will provide, of course, Microsoft resources for you. So norms and expectation. Well, time is a valuable resource. Whenever I ask educators what is something that they need or want more of, it's always time. So please, please, please use this time for yourself. Feel free to engage, ask questions in the chat area. I promise I will get you answers. I do not want to waste your valuable time. So if I don't get to them on this presentation, I do have time blocked in to answer some questions. I will get you more answers if if I can't get them answered today. Also, just try and remember to make sure your mic is muted. That way everyone can hear and follow along. I have Renan here, who is also with Microsoft, and she's been my partner in crime for the last few months. She's going to let me know or chime in if you can't hear me any longer or if things are going on, and she's going to help monitor that chat window for me for questions. And then enjoy the journey, meaning that you're going to have this webinar and we're going to spend an awesome hour together. However, you're going to have resources available to you. Find me. I am on the engagement team, which means that I am here to help you. As you can go ahead and find me, as my mom calls it, the Twitter, at Geri Gillespy, or there is my LinkedIn information, Facebook. You can also find me for people that use that resource. And then also my email is at the bottom down there. So definitely reach out if you have other questions that come in. This truly is a journey that we all are on. So I know that as different scenarios maybe appear or you might get questions, please feel free to reach out and get some support. Right. This is also available here because I will, of course, make this deck available for all. So you have links in here, but there is the Microsoft Enabling Remote Learning Community that is actually supported and ran by my team, the engagement team at Microsoft. So that's a really great way to get answers and to find us and to reach out also. So there's also a link to that for you as support. So what is Teams? Well, I'm going to really quickly touch base because it's really important that we understand the why. It's really important that you see the why of behind Microsoft Teams. It is one place that I like to call the hub that controls and puts everything together. It has online meetings, collaboration places, it can call documents. It does all of that in keeping in store for people to be able to hold everything in one time and real time. It also allows people to move forward because then it keeps a consistent vocabulary for people to be able to have training once, understand what it is, and to change conversations about what are we going to do next. Not conversations about share that with me, let me review it, because it's actually a place where it gets us that next step of being able to be more efficient. And we're going to cover that. We're going to cover what a team, a channel, and a tab are. Of course, a team is like what I like to consider a metal file cabinet. I always go back to what you would keep in your office, right? A team is somewhere where you would keep that file cabinet, and then your channels are going to be your drawers of information, and then the tabs how you sort it, right? So first of all, we're going to get started. I want to have you have an opportunity, and I'm going to try something here. Feel free that if you are on two screens like I am, and you might not be, that's fine, because you're going to be able to join right along with us. But if you do have an option of multiple screens, like even your phone or something that's there, I encourage you to go ahead and go to office.com. That's where I start out my day. I call it setting the screen or setting your day, your workstation for the day. So I'm actually going to exit out of my slideshow here and come into my demo, because I'm going to spend most of my time in a demo solution here for us today. Renan, you still see my screen with that on there? I just want to do a visual check.
Yes, ma'am.
Are we still okay? Are we
You're
still
all good? You're all good.
Awesome. All right. So what we have here now is of course, Teams, but I'm going to go back to office.com because this is where I start my day. The reason I start here is because I can actually set up my apps and get started for the day. And this helps with time, and it keeps all of these systems, because really the Office 365 system together in EDU is what really makes a complete learning system, organizational system, all of these applications together. Teams, like I said, is the hub that makes all of it come together and just makes your work more efficient. However, opening these during the day is where I start. I would start with opening my mail, opening my drive, opening my calendar. If it's not here, of course, finding it in all apps. But where I wanted to come here with you today is if you have the opportunity to also have Teams down. I have our meeting running out of our desktop version of Teams, but you can also open a window of Teams. For example, I'm going to hit here and open Teams. So if you have that opportunity, I want you to go ahead and try and do that, and then you can go and move along right with me in the demo as we cover things. That way you might get a little bit more out of it. If you can't, it's fine. We're recording this so you can go back and watch and follow along again. But I just want to make sure sometimes you have that opportunity to actually dive in and be able to follow along. Okay, I'm going to start at the very beginning and work my way around what Teams are and that navigation and pieces are. For new first open, this is the online version of Teams. I can tell because, of course, I just opened it here from office.com, but I also can tell because at the very top here, I can see from my menu bar up here, I can see that I'm in my browser and I have browser windows. So I know that I'm on my online version. I know a lot of times people will say, well, that seems pretty obvious, but it can get confusing. Why I want to work on my desktop, if I can, is because more of the features and applications will work better for you. You still get the same experience online. There's not anything that, against working online or on a Chromebook, and that I've done it all. It's just if you have the opportunity, there's just more features that are available on the desktop version. So if you are here, of course, you can then open the desktop. If you need to download Teams, down in the very bottom corner here, you're able to download Teams and download that desktop application if you don't have it yet. But this right here is what I like to call, this menu bar on this is called the Me space. It's actually the menu bar with your applications, but I particularly, Dr. Geri calls it the Me space. The Me space is because it applies all to your own accounts. It is your activity, which we're going to cover. It is your chats. It is your Teams. It is, if you're in the education version, your assignments. Your calendar, calls, and files that you have access to, right? These all pertain to your account. This middle space where we have with Teams, I call the We space, W-E space, because this is where we're going to share all of our information. We're going to collaborate. The files that are going to be in this space are going to be ones that everyone in the team that has permission levels and in that team can see. If we come over here to the far right-hand corner, you can see up here I have my profile indicator box here. That is important because that's somewhere where you're going to be able to set your settings in your team. That's another place that I will go in the morning to set up my workstation. What this does is it tells you your status. If you do not want any notifications because you might be in a meeting or might be presenting, you can actually put Do Not Disturb. We'll shut off any kind of those applications. I can come in and say, no, I'm available right now. You can reach out to me. This lets people know that are in your tenant, in your organization, what your status is. You can even put things like be right back, right? But that lets people know exactly where you are. You can set a message. Meaning that so when people see it, you can say, hey, I'm out of the office today. You might have sent a message, but I'm not going to see it. Okay, so that's a way for you to even add a message to your status. This is saved posts, chats. I'm going to get into that in a little bit later and talk about how and where you can save those kind of messages. This is really valuable when you want to find resources later. And like I said, we will definitely come back to that. And then, of course, your settings. Your settings is where you're going to be able to set the screen that you have, your default, if you want dark, high contrast. Me, myself, when I am working late at night, so I don't bother my husband, I go into dark mode. When I'm presenting, of course, I use the default mode. You can also choose your layout. Now, if you have the EDU Microsoft Teams, you are so lucky to have this grid view. And that's what we just saw. However, if you are in the enterprise version of Teams, you can see, I will go back, you will see a list view of Teams. This is what Teams used to look like when it started. I actually worked in our district as an administrator of digital integration, rolling this out through our entire district, through all departments, and we started with the list view. So the list view, I will also cover both sides too. They're a little bit different in how they work, but it really is preference of what you prefer. So if you do not like all of the tiles with your teams and prefer to have the list view, this is a place where you can change that. You can also set, of course, language, keyboard overrides. This is where you can set all of those general settings. Privacy, this is where you can have your do not disturb, what that means about manage priority access. You can block calls, read receipts if you do not want people to know that you've read or seen their receipts. And also, participating in surveys from Microsoft and that too. This is where your privacy settings are. Notifications. This is how you're going to be notified what's going on in your team. Okay, personal mentions, and we're going to get at that too. What that means is when you see that @ sign and you're trying to get a hold of somebody, it's how the application is going to get a hold of you. So you can either get notified with a banner and an email, a banner only, or just showing in your activity feed, meaning you don't want to have any kind of a notification. Emails, you can even set down at the bottom when you're notified. So like your chat messages, team role changes, sounds, missed activity emails. This is what I was talking about. You can decide how often you want to get emailed, if you want to get an email. And what that means is you will get an email from Teams saying, hey, people are trying to get a hold of you. You might have missed messages from A, B, and C. And it just gives you an update of what you might have missed. If you are one that has a lot of teams and you interact with a lot of people on Teams, you're going to notice that you're going to want to change this setting. When I ended up in our district, when I left, I helped support 267 different teams in our district. So I did not have these emails running. When I started, and it was exciting, and I had very few people on Teams, and we were starting to roll, of course, these notifications changed, but I eventually changed this depending on how often I wanted to get notified of what was going on in the teams. Highlights, you can see again of what happened, meetings. It just really lets you know all those different ways you can get notified in Teams. And this is just an example. Why I like to show this screen is because this is an example of the level of communication that Teams enables organizations to have. Because these are all the different types of interactions, events, or contacts that can happen in a team, right? And then, of course, calls also, if your setup in your system really depends on what licensing you have and what program, and if you have calls set up, but this is where you would also actually monitor or change those settings for that. So I'm going to pause for a second and see if we have any questions about settings, and that's profile, because that's kind of where we start that workstation. So if you have any questions, or if there's any in the chat about that, please let me know.
I don't see any questions in the chat.
All right, so I'm going to go on to next right here is this join or create a team. Okay, now if you are, and just bear with me a second, I'm going to change views because this really does make a difference. This cog right here is always a gear setting in Microsoft. So if you see that little gear or cog, that's always going to be somewhere where you're going to get to a setting. I can switch views in that cog and come back to this list view. And the reason I did that is because you're going to notice that this join or create team switches spots. So I'm going to go back to the grid view for now. But this is where you would join or create a team to be able to create a new team, right? If someone emails you or sends you a code, because you also have the option to create a team and then send out a code for people to join it. This is where they would join that team. They would take the code and they would enter it right in here in this box. I've left this team that says Girls in Technology Club here so that you can see this is a public team. When you create a team, and we're going to talk about public and private, it's really important to know that public means that anyone that comes in your organization onto this team, they'll be able to join that team. So it's going to be one of those settings that you're going to want to pay attention to. Okay. If you come to create a team, when you create a team, you will have option of 4 different types of teams if you're in the EDU. If you are not in this EDU space, you can either create a team from existing or just create a team that's brand new, which is going to be this other type of team. For most administrative professionals or anyone that's really leading an organization, this is the type of team you're mostly going to be using. The class team is meant for any kind of facilitator learner. If you are setting up a professional development class, any kind of support system, instructional coaches, this is the type of team I always use even with adults, when I'm in that situation, because it allows me to set up that facilitator learning space. This professional learning team is a PLC team. That means that all the members coming in are treated as owners, because it means that we are coming in that shared space, meaning that we're going to do collaborative work. The OneNote that's associated with this team actually has research-based information on professional learning communities, talks about how to set schedules, how to define roles. It comes with a wealth of information in the OneNote that comes with the team to help you with your professional learning community. The staff team. Now, this can be confusing. A lot of times when I'm working with districts or with school organizations, they think that, even if they're a staff working together, they want a staff team because it makes sense. But really, this is really looking at a relationship that's similar to the class team. It's more of a supervisor, manager, leader, teacher, owner, member. It comes with a class notebook or a staff notebook where people have individual space. It's great for instructional coaches, for facilitated learning, anything where you want to have maybe a one-on-one individual space with people to be able to share information. Most of the time, 90% of the time, when our district office or departments or in service areas or our administrative professionals that I worked with would be using an other team. And like I said, if you're in the enterprise field, it is the same. As you've got an option between creating a brand new team or creating this existing team from a group or a template. So that is a little bit where the difference lies. Team name. You want to really think about your team name that you want to use because it sets up an entire structure for your team. It is possible to change teams' names later. However, it's really important to remember that the email that's associated with this, the file structure, everything that comes with this team is going to be created off of that first team name. So you really want to think about how this team maybe need to be identified later and what the purpose of the team, and try and be intentional and reflective when you're thinking about your team name. You have a description. This is where I usually put a year, an update. So for example, if I was going to put in here the accounting team, this is where I would actually and encourage people to change years so that you can keep the history of what is happening in the services that you provide or with what is happening in what you're supporting, and because the description is changed much more easier than the team name. Going back, like I said, in here and changing, if I add the date here, it's going to keep that as the foundational name of the team throughout the other components, meaning like the SharePoint, and the files and the email, and we will get into that and what I mean by that structure, but really thinking about how you want to name that team. If you want to add a date, the description is really the best place to put that. Privacy, this is where I was talking about making it private or public. Public means that anyone in your organization can join it. So if there's going to be information or materials or anything that's in here that you want only for the members of that team, you need to make sure that it's private. And then also this being discoverable and changing setting, this means that if you want to have people be able to search for your team. So if you want, for example, if I wanted people or members to be able to find my accounting team, or we use this in our district, we would have a team with curriculum, and people wanted to find the curriculum support team, the math support team, they were able to go ahead and put that information in here to have it searchable. Sometimes people didn't want their teams discoverable or searchable because especially when we had our assessment team or our finance team, any of those kinds of teams that had information that was very confidential, this was another place where they would just uncheck that so that people could not search it. Now, just to clarify, it does not mean that they'll automatically be added. It just means that they won't even be able to find it to know that that team exists. Okay, and then you also can create a team from an existing team template, which means that you can actually come through and find another team if you want to copy that team structure. Now, files can't copy over, just the structure of that team file. So the channels, you can even transfer over the members, but it's not going to take over the entire team contents. So that's just important to go over. I'm going to take a brief second here and stop and see if you have any questions about creating a team or joining a team. Okay. All right. Renan, you're still with me, right?
I'm here.
Okay. So now that we've gone in and we joined or created a team here, we talked about this cog of being able
to... Hey,
Geri? Yes.
We had one question.
Sure.
Can any or all of those settings be changed after it's created?
Great question. You can change the settings, but you cannot change the type of team. So if I create a class team, I cannot then go make it a staff team. If I create an NA team, you can't change the structure between those. But the searchable option in that, yes, you can go in and switch afterwards. You can make it unsearchable. You can also make a public team, private team. Except for class teams are always going to be private just because it's talking about being that class nature. So those should already be private. But usually if you have an NA1 team, you can also make it public to private. So you can change those. Great question. And so we're going to go back. I'm going to go to that wheel here. Also managing teams. Like I said, right now I have a few teams here. However, if when at the end of when I was working in my district, I had 267 teams. So to be able to manage my teams quickly, again, you can find that cog, and then you're going to see all of your teams and be able to manage them. Right? You can see if you're an owner or a member, you can see how many people are in them. You can see what type they are. Okay, and what that means is is it public or is it private? It's not going to tell you if it's a class team or a staff team or what type that, but it will tell you if it's private or public. And then it also will tell you if you want to, will let you hide that team or show that team. Okay. Of course, bumper sticker for Microsoft is those 3 ellipses always mean more, right? So of course, that's where our menu options are. This is going to give us a menu that you're going to see quite often, and we're going to cover, I'm going to talk about this when we create teams, but this is going to be your main menu for teams. Managing teams is going to get into being able to edit your members, who is there, your settings all at one time. We're going to talk about channels and adding channels to teams, adding members, leaving the team. This is very important. When you are done with a team and you do not want to be part of it anymore. So if you are part of a committee work and you have maybe changed roles or positions, you want to leave a team. You do not want to delete a team. Okay, deleting the team means that you will delete it for everyone. Okay, leaving the team, that just means that you are going to take yourself personally out of that team. And that's something that if you're helping others or you're trying to show other people how to use teams, it's very important that you show people the difference between deleting their teams and leaving their teams. Editing the team is going to let us edit the name and get into those settings, and we'll talk about that when we get into actual team channels. Getting a link to the team means that you can set that out and be able to email that team link to people quickly, with the caveat that they are allowed to be in that team, meaning they have to be a member. So if I sent a link to Renan to one of my teams that she's not a member of, she's not going to have access to it. Okay, so but it's a good way to share a team to people that you do have access with. Archiving a team. Archiving the team means that you have put the team away and closed it down, but you still want to see it or know that it's there. It puts the team into you have an option of read only, which means that people may be able to see the files, access the files, get to whatever the information that's in the team. However, it's no longer active and it won't allow new work to happen. We talk about archiving teams, especially at the district or a school level or here, every year annually. You know, my calendar doesn't go from January to December. It just, now I'm on this educational clock that my year is July to July. So this is a conversation we start having, at least in our districts or with the people that we support, every March, April, May. So that's where we actually switch over to archive. And then tags, I'll talk about managing tags and how you can tag those and find information, and then delete the team. This actually is where you can delete a team, and I'm going to show you in a little bit really what that looks like, but I want to make sure you knew how you can manage teams very quickly. You can see there's 31 active teams here. And I don't have any archived. Let me see if I have any that I could archive here. Let's go to this PLC. I will archive this team. I can either make it read only here, and then I can archive, and that's what it looks like. How to go through that process. Then when it archives the team, I will be able to then see that I have one archived team down here. I can even restore that team. So maybe later I don't want it archived anymore. I can restore the team and actually make it where it's not archived or not. Okay. All right. Analytics. They are adding more and more analytics to teams where you can see active users, people, guests, posts. All of this is coming. If you're not seeing more analytics that are here, just because of the tenant that I'm in, you can see as things are rolled out and worked on production. So if you do not see an analytics piece, just know that that's something that could be coming out as more analytics are added, especially with what's been happening with COVID and people moving forward and having to know this data and working more remotely. Okay, so I'm going to stop there for a second and see if there's any more questions.
Jerry, there was a question about the searchable option. Could it be restricted by the organization if they don't see it?
Yes, it could be, and it could be something that an admin, because they're in their EDU, there's someone above that can actually control that. I know some turn it off and don't have it. So if you're not seeing that, make sure, go ahead and email me, reach out to me, and we can make sure we're getting exactly, because if you're seeing something that's searchable and it shouldn't, we can get that figured out for you. But it definitely is something that can be controlled at the admin level. Yes. All right, so the next thing I'm going to talk about, because this is a great feature here, is this filter button. And you can actually filter in between the type of classes you have. So if you have classes here, or if you have PLC, staff, I do not have any staff ones. I have PLC, other teams, of course, and then all of my teams at the same time. When you're at this tile view, you can also move teams. When your team's here, you can see I have your teams. I can, of course, use the little caret to bring them up or close them. The 3 dots here mean more. If I come through here, of course, I'm going to get that same, I told you, that same box is that menu that's very popular with every team. But I can hide a team. So if I hide this team, what it's going to do is down here, you'll see my hidden teams. It's going to keep all my teams in my hidden teams in alphabetical order. At the top, and this used to drive people crazy till they understood what was happening, is this actually is a team, so it's team by demand is what I like to call it. And it means that you can move these teams around to where it is that you want to have them. So for example, if I'm working on this team, I can put it up front, I can put all these teams together, and you really get to organize and drag and drop where you want your teams together. So that's why I call it teams on demand, because you really can put them where you want to. If I switch views really quickly, in this list view, for those of you who prefer this view, same kind of concept. I have my teams that I have here that I can actually pin and have. I can have my hidden teams are down here lower, you can see. I can even drag and drop the teams at the top, right? And put them where I want. The only teams that are going to be in alphabetical order are any teams that you put in hidden teams. You may not see hidden teams if you are if you have not hidden any yet. So if you only have a few teams and you're not seeing the two different variances or opportunities to be able to see both, it's because you probably need to hide a team first to be able to see that, right? If we come over here now to remember what I called the me space, your activity right here is telling you all the activities and things that happened in your teams. If you have a lot of teams as they grow, this is a great way to come on and see what was happening. If you've missed activity, now I know this is a safe space and it's okay to admit it. We all join some social, we all enjoy some social media at times. So we know that little red dot, that little squirrel, means that something is going on that I might be happening that I'm missing. So then your activity, whenever you see that red circle and you want to go ahead and catch up on any of the action that you might be missing on, this is one way for you to go ahead and see what that might look like. I come here also in the morning on my teams and just to see what I've missed. Working on a global team, especially in the middle of the night, I can see what kind of conversations happened. Chat features, again, these are my own chat. These are my personal private chats. These are not chats that are within the team. However, with that being said, I can create a chat and join multiple people to it. This is how you add people to chat on here. So I can add in people that are in here. And I can chat either one-on-one with those people, or like I said, I can create actually a group chat with these people. The key part and the key component to this is that you know that you're not talking to anybody else but these three people. So it is between only the people that are in that chat. I can then type my message down here. At the bottom, you're going to see this menu bar. This first one, as in Microsoft, always means that text editor. This is where I start messages, because if you hit the return space here, and you know, I've known for this, I will be typing along and want to hit return. But what happens is when I do that, it goes ahead and sends the message, and that I'm not done. So I myself, just as a tip, I always start in the text editor so that I'm able to edit, I'm able to bold if I want to, I can hit the return without being sent, and making sure that my message says what I want. Now, again, that's just preference. That is not something you have to do. But you have all those options to be able to add a link. You can bold, change the font, you can add paragraphs, you have all different things that you can do here. You can copy paste in pictures, any of those kinds of things that you want to add in. This exclamation point anywhere you see in Teams means that it's important. You want to have that message stand out for people, right? You want to mark that it's important. They are adding more features about urgence in that too. If you don't see, like I said, if you don't see those features, they soon shall be maybe coming, but I know the important piece right here, this exclamation point, important, is one that I use all the time. And it allows people to know that it's important for it to stand out, or it's an important piece of information. It also is going to notify people in the banner. You can attach a file, upload from your computer for your OneDrive. Of course, you have the fun options of the emojis and of the GIFs or that GIFs, or you can add stickers. If you're in the education piece, you have the fun education stickers. You can even schedule a meeting and add a meeting to the chat. You can also add a stream video. They're now are adding into YouTube pieces. This is where you're really essentially, this bottom menu bar is where you can add and files and any kind of information to the chat. I'm going to actually add a file here. Just so that you can see what happens to that chat. We'll see how on there. You can see I added a message there. I'm going to come into the text editor. Like I said, I like to keep that here. And then I'm going to send this on because I want to show you. Now I have this message. You can see I've sent on, this was an icon that I had here of AESA, but I also want to show you in that chat later, if I came back, all the files that were shared in this chat are going to be here in that chat. So if you did have that chat meeting and you went ahead and said, hey, I know we shared a file with Matt and Shay and Kayla, I can't remember where I put it. This is one way to go back and find that file, is the files will be here in that chat. You can also change this with this little pencil. Anywhere you see the pencil, you can add what you want to the top of that. So for example, if you wanted to call this great group, right? You can change the name of that anywhere you see that pencil icon. So now you can see I've now created this great group chat. It's a private chat. It's not a team. We can share files. We can meet now. If I went and actually wanted to call them with this video call, I could call them at any time and set up that video call. I used to do this frequently with my team when I was in my past role. They loved it, especially during trainings. But that's a way for you to just actually get online. Sometimes it's helpful, for example, when I would be meeting with teams and we had a question, we could actually pop onto a meeting really quickly that way.
Geri?
Yes.
This is Ann.
Sure.
I'm getting speed. Sorry. There was a question actually about presentation. The menu item along, or the menus along the bottom, is covering what you're talking about, where you were indicating what you were showing, and so this person couldn't see it. Can you move? Can that menu item be moved during a meeting?
Yes, I can. You mean at the very bottom?
Yeah.
It can't be moved, but I'm going to change my screen a little bit, see if I can make it easier for them to see. Because I'll come back and then I'll show that menu, because it's the same menu, so I'll come back and show that. And then let me know also, Anne, if it's still not showing or not. Okay. Are there any questions now about chat in here? Okay. Something important I'm going to show you too about chat is, of course, these 3 dots, crucial in Microsoft when you want to be able to get to more. Those 3 ellipses mean more. If I want to keep this great group chat at the top, I'm going to get a menu where I can either hide this message, I can mark it as unread, maybe for later, mute it. I don't want to be notified anymore right now, but I want to still be in that chat, or I can pin it. Okay, so pinning it means that as chats happen, those are going to bounce up and down, and they come in order that's happened, meaning the most frequent chat's going to be at the top. But if I pin it, it's going to keep that chat up at the top all the time. So if there's people that you meet with or chat with regularly, or you've set up this private group chat, that's one way to keep that chat to the top, is by pinning it to the very top. Right? You, of course, anytime you see this, you can filter. And I honestly don't use that as often as I do the chat, as I use the pin chat. In that messages also, like I showed before, everywhere that you even have this message, you can like it. So for example, someone may come back and say, that is a great message, I saw it. Every time I click onto a message, I'm going to get this menu bar. Those 3 ellipses are there. This is where I can either edit it only because I wrote it, right? I can share it to Outlook, which means I can email it somewhere. This is where we have those immersive reader and applications where you can have it read to you, you can change it, be able to, even in places where you can add translator app into Teams. This is really where you're able to break down what that message information was. And then you're also going to see save this message. So if someone sends you a chat or a file or a message that you really want to be able to save for later, that is something that I've always used. A lot of these are these saved messages. And being able to use that feature. Okay. Any more questions there? No. All right. So I'm going to go into Teams. Okay. So if we come into our team now, we have here I've made a team. I've got my channels. These are called channels. And like I said, think of a team, because people always say, how would you break down a team? How should I decide to break down a team? Really, with teams, you don't want to overwhelm in your organization and have too many teams, but you also want to make sure that you have, you're not putting too much information in a team. And I'll show you what I mean by that. I always think as one team, like I said, kind of mentioned before, as a file cabinet in your office. Right? The channel is going to be like each drawer of that file cabinet. It's going to keep each one of the files separate, the conversations separate, the meetings separate. Everything in this drawer is going to be together in this file cabinet, but it's going to be in each one of these drawers separate. So meaning that if I have a file in financial services, I'm going to come here to access that information. I'm not going to reach it through accountability, right? The same thing as if I had a metal file cabinet here. I don't want to have a metal file cabinet in my office that's 30 drawers high, because that means I have way too much information in it. But I also want to make sure that I don't have my entire office full of file cabinets. So that's the closest of analogy that I can get to that kind of makes sense and resonates with people, especially those that work in an office. You can see here my channels are numbered. It keeps them in order. It allows people to find them. If you have a lot of channels, like for example, like if you're going to get up to 10, 11, I start with 01. If it's something I'm not going to have a lot of channels, I'll start with just a 1, 2, 3. I keep a separate online meeting and resource channel because that keeps my meeting separate. If I want to find where we met as a group, or what happened, or anything in general, I know I can go to one channel to find it. Now, again, these are just tips and preferences. They're not anything that has to be done. Of course, you can have a meeting in your operational services if you wanted to, and still come back down to your meetings here, that you always have that opportunity. However, it just helps keep things organized. These at the bottom, you can see I have little lock signs on them, and that's because they're private channels. When you create a channel, I'm going to walk through that. That is where you can actually create a private channel, meaning that only those members are going to be in there. When we create a team, your first 3 ellipses at the top are where we're going to, again, that same menu option is where I'm going to manage this team. Right? I'm going to see the owners. I can have members and guests. I can add members. I can add a multiple people way. I can even add a distribution list here. So if you have a distribution list in your Outlook or in your Active Directory, especially if you use 365 and have Active Directory, I can add an entire list here. Okay, I can add that team, and then of course I decide if I want to have an owner or a member. I'm going to make Shay an owner because I don't have another owner in this team. You always want to have, as best practice, at least 2 owners, because I like to say if someone wins the lottery on Saturday and doesn't come to school or work on Monday, you have somebody else that can get into that team. Pending requests, or anybody that wants to join the team. Channels, this is just another way to add a channel, but it also controls what kind of type of channel. You can see these are going to be open to everyone in the team. These are ones that are only going to be specific members of the team. This show for me means what's going to show up when I open the team, and showing for members is actually what you would click so that people can see that channel when they open their team. So this is for me, and this is making sure when they open the team, they see that. Okay. Your settings. This is where the fun stuff happens. You can actually have change the picture. You can upload, you can have your own logo in here. You can change this picture and upload, like I said, a file. This is where you also can change between private and public channel. Team discovery is being that was that searchable area, and that might go back to that admin question and see if it's not, and see what type of team that we had earlier. This is another place we can check and see if that's there, whether admin has taken that away or not. Member permissions. Now, owners cannot take permissions away from other owners. All right, owners can take permissions away from members, but owners cannot take other permissions away from owners. So that means that if you have owners in the team, they still can do all of these things, all right? But members, you may want to unclick or allow or not allow. It just depends on the ownership that you have. If you have new members, I always suggest for people that have new people that may not have been trained on Teams, you may want to make sure that they cannot create maybe private channels, they cannot delete or restore channels, they can't remove apps, you know, things that are not going to mess up the team you created. You can always give it back, but when you have new members that really aren't understanding what to do, sometimes it's good to take those permissions away. We also have guest permissions as far as if you have guests in your team, and you can add any guest if it's permitted by your organization by adding an email. At mentions to be able to at mention the team so that everybody knows in the team that it's there. And then I wanted to make sure we got to this team code. The team code is how you generate a code so that people can join your team. So right here again, I went in settings, and then under that settings, I had team code. You can reset this code, meaning if you don't like what appears. For example, I had some past elementary teachers on my team, and they would be very cautious about what letters were here or how the flow of it. The letters are always lowercase and the numbers are large, so you can reset it. You can copy that and send it out in an email or post it. And then you can also remove it, which means that you can turn it off. And even if people have that code, they won't be able to get in your team any longer. We used that to generate a code when we did large teams in the beginning of the time. If we needed to have 200 or 300 people join a team at a time, that's when we would use team code for generate. And then you have your fun stuff and what you want to allow people to do. Tags is one of our newer features that allows people to tag information so that you can find it and make sure it's there fast. To be honest, it's so new that we didn't have a lot of use for it in our district when it was first coming out, just because people were using the save, but it is a way to tag resources for people to be able to find later. And then, like I said before, more analytics and that are coming, and then apps that are available to your team. Leaving the team again is here. In that channel where I went is these 3 ellipsy dots here, making sure if you're going to leave the team versus deleting the team. Okay, managing tags, we don't have any teams created in here, but that's where you can notify groups and that too, that you have the tags. You also have in each channel those 3 ellipsy dots, right? This is how you can manage each channel. So meaning I can add, because this is a private channel, I can add specific members of the team to this channel, but they have to already be members of the channel. I can't add a member that's not there, that hasn't been added to the team. It can't be someone that doesn't have rights to that team already. There are again settings for each channel with member permissions. But something that's really key about this in communication is that you can get an email address for that channel. So if I wanted to email an announcement or that to a channel, I could get an email address from that channel, and then I could copy that and actually send it out and email that information out. Here's that menu bar again. Renan, can you see the menu bar?
I can, but I have an updated Teams.
Awesome. Okay, so around here you can see this menu bar here, and this is again the conversation. Now I'm in the we space, which means that everybody in the team can see this. I'm going to hit here when you have options now. When you hit this text box, when you are in a channel, you can actually create an announcement like what you saw up here before. And that allows you to choose an illustration or upload an image. Now, if you have the enterprise version, you're not going to have all those banners, but in another session, I can show you how to make your own banners if you want to do that. But when you have an announcement, and actually I'm going to come up and I'm going to edit, I'm going to post this one. See if it will let me get rid of this. But since I have this message here already, I can come back to it. You're going to notice I can add my icons here, but I can also edit it with these ellipses here. I can share it in Outlook, which means I can email it to a lot of people if people wanted that announcement. I can save it, right? But I also, when I come here, I can edit this message and I can post this in multiple channels. So I can select channels with other teams. So for example, if you were one person and you wanted this to go to your finance team, your HR team, your special services team, your operations, whoever, you could click which channel in which team you wanted it to go to. Now, if you do that, it's really important to know that that message, it's going to be concise all the way through where you've sent it. So if you edit here, it's going to edit it all the way through where you've added those multiple channels. That's the only thing that you want it to be noted about. And then you also can choose who can reply to that announcement on here. So if I've sent that, oops, this one right here, I'm going to check this check mark. Now I know it's sent and it's going to go off into another area. I know we are coming out of time and we are, gone through. I know we've covered how to create a channel, how to create a team, how to set the settings in that team. Here in meetings, this is where you can create meetings out of your calendar. I can definitely come back. I'm going to actually come back to my PowerPoint and show you what's here so that you have access to this. We did this live demo where we were. I've added Microsoft resources here for you, which will give you access to any of these that I've showed here. But I've also included in here links to any of these resources showing more how to get to any of the descriptions or content of what I shared today. I put some tips in here, talked about having more owners and making sure that you use the @mention so that people know that you're talking to them into a team. But I've also included some tips from myself, meaning about the me space and the we space, understanding that, making sure that you check up your settings in Teams, knowing where you can find those saved messages that you've saved, so because that will bring those back up, the ones that you've flagged. When you create a team, I've also put information in here about the different types of teams and what they really are used for, along with links again to Microsoft information. I showed some examples of how you can set up teams using those channel numbers. And then also sharing content. I added this in. You can actually request control and be able to help take over a screen for somebody when you want to demonstrate a skill. So if they give you a call and say that they need help, you can actually take over their screen and show them exactly where to go. And that's done in a meeting just by requesting control. And I put information about that also in here. But I wanted to get to this slide before we go, and I know we're getting short on time. There are multiple uses for teams and scenarios. I am going to work, of course, with your team in finding out what you would like next covered. We can dive deeper into using teams on more of a Teams 201 or 102, but finding out how we can maybe use them as a professional development scenario. If you have some staff support or if even a data center, we can talk about how we use them as community connection with town hall meetings. Of course, collaboration and instruction are parts and pieces of academics that we've covered. covered, but also just how to set up a workflow in a team and diving deeper in that and in our next steps. So I most importantly want you guys to know that I am here for you. And please reach out and let us know more about it. I'm just going to pull up as I come in here. I'm going to pull up this last thing so I can make sure you see where my saved messages are. You can see now where I saved it and how that works. Questions before we go? I'd love to see how to use them for teacher training courses. Definitely. Yes, we will send that out because I can show you exactly how, if you're going to be training teachers, how to use this. Any more questions? And John, anyone else? Is there anything else you'd like me to cover before we go? Questions you might have? I'm going to get a survey ready for you guys to send out.
Okay, that sounds great. And you're gonna share those links that I can with me so that I can share it with our registrants. Those last slide decks you had up there. Did I lose her?
I think she went on
I got
mute.
muted. Sorry about that.
You were muted.
Yes, we can set up all of that. I'm going to share this the whole deck with you, and has all these links in it for you. We can, like I said, move on from here. I gave a lot of information today, so please, 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 if you want more questions, please reach out to me. I do not mind covering anything else or sending some more resources. I did add a lot of resources and links of covering everything I covered today too.
Okay, that's great. We'll, yeah, you can watch for an email from me with a copy of or a link to the recording of this presentation and also the resources that Geri shared. So I guess if nobody has any other questions.
And I will send out more office hours just so people understand what those are. That's just time for people to jump on with me. And if anyone wants to set up specific office hours through you guys bringing our team on, we can do that too. It's just an opportunity for people to jump on and ask questions, and we can individually meet them at their point of need or time of need, whatever it is that they're at. So I will put out more office hours, but that's exactly what those are. We will cover any questions you have, and then we just can do more demonstrations like this.
Okay, yeah, we're getting some real positive feedback in the chat. You know, I think that it looks like people are appreciating the information and looking for more. I think maybe a 102 or 201 would be great. So and we always, as Joan commented, we always appreciate the free support. That's awesome. So I guess if there's nothing else, we'll wrap up for today. I just want to thank Geri and Renan again for their expertise, sharing their expertise, and remind everybody, sign up for the affinity group. Again, go to our website. On the main page up in the right corner, you'll see AESA Community. Click on that and you'll get more information about how to join. So thanks for your time, everyone. We appreciate it and have a great evening.